Hi there, I'm meteorologist Peyton Malone. Thanks for joining me on Tropical Weather Impact. It's Friday, September the 26th. Last Friday of September here. The tropics continue to ramp up and the East Coast is on alert right now, especially from Georgia, South Carolina and North Carolina as we track a tropical disturbance. Here on the Gulf Coast, though, in New Orleans, we don't have any worries this weekend or early next week. In fact, much of the forecast along the Gulf Coast is going to be very quiet and fairly nice as we go through the next 7 days or so. But here's what we're tracking. Two separate areas. Hurricane Humberto as of this morning with its update as that storm continues to really rapidly strengthen, it looks like. We've got Invest 94 still trying to organize, but still looking rather unorganized at this hour as it starts to lift north. And you can see a high chance of development still as it lifts over the Bahamas Friday and Saturday and then continues that northerly track, getting close to the East Coast by early next week. Let's start with Humberto, though, since we do have a cone. That is the official cone with it. You can see this thing really ramps up from a Cat 1 to a 3 to a 4. By Sunday and Monday, we have a major hurricane, maybe as strong as a Cat 4, sitting south of Bermuda and north of the islands. This is going to be out to sea at its strongest point, so that's good. But the turn happening, Bermuda will be watching this in about 5 days. We could have a hurricane somewhere near Bermuda again. Direct landfall, of course, is always a bit tricky with that island nation, but that's the path of Humberto. And a closer look at the satellite, you can see how it's getting that well-defined center. An eye is probably going to start to pop out at some point today, and this thing is off to the races. And so as of the 4 a.m. advisory, it was a 75-mile-per-hour hurricane. I think at this point we are beyond that, and we're on our way to a major hurricane late Friday into Saturday. It's incredible how the storms this year have gone from nothing to 4s, and even Aaron was a 5, and so it shows you things can ramp up quickly. So let's talk about Invest 94, because this is what everyone is watching closely on the East Coast, from the East Coast to Florida up through the Carolinas. Now, through the Saturday time frame, we're going to have this depression probably forming somewhere in here. All of our models agree the center is coming together here, and it's tracking through the Bahamas. Here we are Saturday night into early Sunday. You can see they're sitting just off the East Coast of Florida. And so a Florida landfall just doesn't seem like it's really on the table right now. But if the storm's growing in size and intensity, we may have some choppy seas, some outer bands, and some rough, some gusty winds, especially in coastal areas on the East Coast of Florida. This is Sunday night. Now, this is when we very well could have Tropical Storm Imelda moving towards the Carolinas. So here we are Monday afternoon. Some models, some of these high-resolution models you're seeing here, even a few of our bigger models, show a named storm sitting right off the coast of the Carolinas Monday afternoon, which means we would already be feeling impacts in these areas. This is tracking the center of the low pressure. Now, this is when things get really interesting. You can see Humberto, it's probably a major hurricane at this point. It's a distance away. In fact, how close is it? Well, these models think it's probably going to be within 700 miles, the center of the storms, within 700 miles. Typically for storm interaction, anything under 1,000 miles away, you can start to get some interaction, depends on the size of the storm. But this is close enough to where we could still have some interaction between the two. What could that be? Well, it could be Humberto coming in and Imelda slowing down and getting tugged back this direction. And so whenever you look at models here, that's why things get a bit wonky and you start to get all these little loops. You get some loops coming in and diving in and stalling out. You get others that come up right here. There's a couple models that bring it right next to the coast, stall out, and then trail it behind Humberto. And so this is going to be a very hard forecast to determine. Does future Imelda actually move inland and make landfall? And I call it future Imelda, that's the next name on the list here. And so at the moment, there is still a tremendous amount of uncertainty, especially for areas from Georgia to South Carolina to North Carolina. Does the storm actually make landfall? And at the end of the day, if the center of the storm gets close enough, it may not need to make landfall to have big problems, because whether this thing makes landfall or not, a lot of the steering currents show this thing slowing down somewhere in this vicinity. And we know slowing down storms can cause major flooding issues, also beach erosion, these types of problems. And so there's still a lot of uncertainty on exactly what this system is going to do with regard to its exact path. We do think through the weekend the path is straightforward. It's Monday into Tuesday that we have a big old we don't know just yet. And models are flipping back and forth. Some models bring it inland, others don't. Now, I would say, Humberto, we're pretty confident it's going to curve out to sea here. This seems like a confident forecast right now, but the interaction between these two is the big headache right now, and it's got a lot of forecasters scratching their head trying to figure out exactly what is going to happen. You can see that still with some of our models. These are not the spaghetti models, which I was just showing you. This is just strictly the GFS and European model. You can see they have the future storm trying to form near the Bahamas. The GFS is still a little bit quicker with it, and with it being a tad quicker here, you can see it actually moves it inland by the time we get into Monday evening. So it has a landfalling tropical storm or even weak hurricane trying to move inland near the Carolinas. That's South Carolina. That's Charleston right there by Monday. The European's a bit slower, and whenever you go out in motion, it shows the big fear of, they both show it stalling out. That's problematic, but the European model shows it getting tugged back out towards Humberto here and just stalling off the East Coast. That would be a major, I'm talking a major rainmaker. Now the GFS pushes it in further and further. The European model stalls it a bit closer to the coast. And I do think at the end of the day here, the rain is probably going to be our biggest concern with this. Now, this is one of the worst case scenarios. This is the European model I'm showing you stalling off the coast. I didn't put numbers on here because we don't know how much this thing is going to produce in rainfall. We know it has the potential though, and so you're talking about fine details like rain totals, wind gusts, those types of things. We just don't know those answers just yet. I mean, the storm hadn't even formed, but if this thing were to organize and stall, you're talking about impressive rain totals. This big area, this black or darker blob here is because it's off my scale. My scale goes up to 10 inches. That's what all this darker, these whites are, from 4 to about 10 inches of rain, but this corridor could be much more. And so that is the major concern right now, is that this thing does try to stall and it produces significant flooding, it produces beach erosion, it produces some storm surge. I mean, if you have a storm just sitting there with constant winds off the coast, you're seeing water pile up. And so this is probably going to be a big water storm at the end of the day. There are some limiting factors for this thing to actually blow up into anything major with regard to winds. Now, remember, the category is strictly based on winds, doesn't have anything to do with surge, doesn't have anything to do with rainfall. And so this is our feature right now. As we go out in motion, what you're watching here are the winds and the dry air. Here we are Sunday and Monday. There is going to be a large wall of dry air on the west side of this developing storm. There's also going to be a lot of dry air trying to get sucked up on the southern side. I think that's going to, for the most part, at least hopefully, keep this thing from blowing up into a Cat 2, Cat 3, Cat 4, Cat 5. We're not seeing that because of this dry air trying to get wrapped up in it. Now, at the same time, look at all the moisture on the northern side. That means rain could start well ahead of the storm. Even this weekend, we've got some rain up here on the East Coast, but that means it's a lopsided storm with all the rain on the north side. And again, I think water is going to be the biggest concern here. And as we go further out in time next Thursday, if that storm stalls out, then we are talking about a mess with regard to the rain. So in the near term, what we're going to be watching is, how does this storm organize? How does it come together? How quickly is it organizing? And what is Humberto doing coming in behind it? Precision cast shows got rain over the Dominican Republic and Haiti today. This is going to be lifting north. We do expect it to probably become that depression or maybe tropical storm Imelda by this weekend. Here we are Saturday afternoon. You can see clear as day the system coming together over the Bahamas. It's not going to be very strong over the Bahamas, we don't think, but it will be developing. You'll have some squally conditions and some heavy rain. Here we go into Sunday morning. You have a tropical system here. You have what's left of our cold front there off the East Coast. That's clearly a major hurricane, Humberto. You can see how unorganized Invest 94 would be compared to Humberto, and then they continue their track northwest. And so as we go out in time here, Humberto's not a big hurricane, but what's trying to form out here with Imelda, and future Imelda we'll call it, is a much larger system. Again, the rainfall is going to start well ahead of any center, and so we may already start to see some heavy rain along the coastal regions there by the end of the weekend and early next week. And then if that storm continues moving north, rainfall becomes your biggest threat as we head into early next week. And depending on if it stalls or not, it may be there for a couple of days. We just simply don't know. And a lot of times, as meteorologists, it's hard to say we don't know, but we just do not know right now these fine details because of the interaction it could have with Hurricane Humberto. It's a Cat 1 right now. It'll likely ramp up to a major. And so we've had a lot of weak storms this year, but the ones that have become hurricanes, They've all been major. Aaron was a Cat 5. Gabrielle was a Category 4. Humberto was forecasted to be a Cat 4. I don't see Imelda right now being anything too strong with regard to wind, but it could end up being a bad, big rainmaker. And sometimes that's far worse than what you're dealing with those strong winds. That's going to do it for your tropical weather impact on this Friday. If you do live over there in the coastal Carolinas, please make sure you're following the forecast closely. Check in multiple times a day through the weekend. You don't need anything sneaking up on you as we head into early next week. On that note, I hope everyone has a safe and quiet weekend. Thanks for joining me.